What's going on, baseball fans? How are we doing? So it's Super Bowl Sunday and I'm in the football mood. If you didn't see my last video, I talked about baseball players that could have played in the NFL. But in this video, I'm going to talk about NFL players that could have played baseball. Let's go talk about it. Before I get started, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the whatever button, hit all the buttons. Starting off my list at number 10, I have Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterbacks in the game today, if not the best quarterback in the game today. Before he went into the NFL, he was actually drafted by the Detroit Tigers in the 37th round of the 2014 MLB draft. That summer, he was also ranked as the 419th best MLB prospect before being drafted by the Tigers. Tim Grieve, who is a scout for the Tigers, told MLB.com that Mahomes was one of the better athletes I've covered in East Texas in my 15 years. He was very upfront about playing football. That was what he wanted to do. So that's why he went so far down the board and ended up pursuing a career in football. And hey, I definitely think he made the right choice, winning a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, the 2018 MVP. He's been to 4 Pro Bowls, for one-time All-Pro team. Patrick Mahomes, and his career is really just getting started. I mean, good grief, he's only 26 years old. He has a long career ahead of him. Could Patrick Mahomes be one of the best quarterbacks of all time when it's all said and done? But taking a look at his baseball career, he was really known for his arm. That's what teams were looking at him as a possible pitcher down the road. Not really much of a hit tool, not really much power. Definitely an athlete, 55 run, as we all can see how he is in the game of football. But his big thing was the arm. A bit of a different kind of throwing motion, and teams were intrigued by the way he threw. But in the end, pursued football. He does have something going on with baseball, though. He is the youngest owner of all time when it comes to owning part of a sports team. He is a part owner of the Kansas City Royals. So even though he didn't pursue baseball, he is still involved in the game of baseball today. At number 9, I have Daunte Culpepper. Daunte Culpepper was one of the best quarterbacks in the game when he first broke out into the league. In those early years with Minnesota, he was so good during that time. 33 touchdowns in the year 2000. He did have 16 interceptions, but Daunte Culpepper was very good during that time with the Minnesota Vikings. But before any of this, he actually was drafted by the New York Yankees in the 26th round of the 1995 draft. The Yankees saw him as a possible pitcher down the road. Obviously, the guy had a cannon for an arm, could just chuck a pigskin all the way down the field. Daunte Culpepper really would have been interesting to see how baseball would have gone for him. Coming in at number 8, I have Jameis Winston, the number 1 overall pick of the NFL draft back in 2015 by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jameis Winston had a phenomenal career at Florida State, helped them win a national championship. But did you know that he also played some baseball at Florida State? He was actually pretty good. Take a look at the numbers back in 2014. He pitched overall about 33 innings. He had a 1.08 ERA, right around 8 strikeouts per 9. Had a good arm. Obviously, being a quarterback, it would have been really cool to see if Jameis Winston pursued baseball. I definitely think he could have had a chance, but in the end, probably made the right choice. He's been a solid quarterback for the most part in his career. He's started games. He's been a backup. But with New Orleans this past year, he had a 5-2 record when he did start. He is a free agent now. It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up going next season. But Jameis Winston, could he have played baseball? Sure. At number 7, I have CEDRIC Benson. CEDRIC Benson was an absolute beast of a running back. If you go back to his numbers when he played for the University of Texas, back in 2004, he ranked 4th overall in yards with 1,834. His time at Texas, he was stupid good. Every year he had at least 1,000 yards rushing. He had at least 12 touchdowns in every season. He had 21 touchdowns in 2003, 19 touchdowns in 2004. I mean, look at those numbers. Are you kidding me? CEDRIC Benson was an absolute beast. However, a lot of people don't know, he was drafted in the 12th round by the Dodgers in the 2001 draft. So So there is definitely a chance he could have been a baseball player. It says here, he had all the tools to make it in the big leagues. To me, looking at him was like looking at the next Bo Jackson. He was a center fielder, and he had all the tools. If he had spent more time with baseball, he would have been great at baseball. But they play so much football here that he didn't have a chance to participate in serious baseball instruction until the very end. He was a good ball player. He had good hand-eye coordination and a quick bat. He really came into his own as a senior. I wasn't disappointed when he gave up baseball, though. I told him to do whatever he thought was best for him. It was his decision, and after looking at what he did in football, I don't blame him one bit. CEDRIC BENSON ended up having a really solid career in the NFL. Broke out in 2009. That was when he really emerged. Over 1,200 yards rushing that year with 6 touchdowns. That was when he went to the Cincinnati Bengals. That was his second season with them. 2010, over 1,100 yards rushing with 7 touchdowns. 2011, his last year with the Bengals. Over 1,000 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns. CEDRIC BENSON, during those 3 years, just really solid overall. Unfortunately, just recently passed away. But CEDRIC BENSON, man, oh man, this guy was a heck of a football player, and he could have been a heck of a baseball player too. At number 6, I have Russell Wilson. A very interesting career early on for Russell Wilson. Despite going on to have a successful NFL career, winning a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, he was actually in the minor leagues in baseball at one point. He was drafted by the Colorado Rockies. He was their number 19 prospect back in 2011, but in the minor leagues, his numbers just weren't really that good. Only hit 230 in 2010, only hit 228 in 2011. He just wasn't really cutting it as a baseball player. He was playing football early on in his career at North Carolina State, but after deciding to give up baseball, he went back to Wisconsin, had a pretty good season, 14 games overall, 3,100 yards, 33 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. He's a mobile quarterback, so he was getting attention. Ended up getting drafted by the Seahawks in the 3rd round of the 2012 NFL Draft, 75th overall. And hey, it looks like he ended up making the right choice. But one more thing about Russell Wilson. After winning a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, a month later, he ended up going to the Texas Rangers spring training, participated there. So hey, Russell Wilson, at least he got a taste of Major League Baseball, even if it was just a little bit. At number 5, I have Dan Marino, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I think we can safely say that he made the right choice pursuing a football career in the Hall of Fame. 9-time Pro Bowl appearances, a 3-time All-Pro, 1984 MVP. Dan Marino, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Looking at where he ranks all time on the touchdowns, or on the touchdown rankings, 7th all time. Dan Marino, easily one of the best of all time, but he could have been a baseball player. John Sherholtz, who was the Royals scouting director at the time, thought he had a chance to lure Marino. He saw him as possibly being a third baseman down the road. He was good in high school, but there was no convincing Dan Marino of passing up football. And in the end, he made the right choice. At number 4, I have Brandon Weeden. Not one of the more high-profile names on this list, but he definitely had a chance to make it as a Major League Baseball player. Early on in Brandon Weeden's career, he actually got drafted by the Yankees. At one point, he was their number 19 prospect back in 2003. He actually did pretty well in the early goings of his minor league career in rookie ball. Over 11 games, 7 starts. He had a 2.86 ERA. And then back in 2003 with low A and rookie ball, overall he had pretty good numbers that year as well, a 2.58 ERA. The one thing with Brandon Weeden, the one thing that kind of held him back, he didn't have a lot of velocity. He's kind of average velocity, 92, 94. So after his time with the Yankees, he was actually involved in that Kevin Brown trade that saw Kevin Brown come to the Yankees, and then Brandon Weeden went to the Dodgers system. Overall, didn't put up good numbers there. He was with Kansas City back in 2006, didn't have good numbers there. So he decided to go back to college, go play quarterback for Oklahoma State, and pursue a football career at that point. It did work out for him. He got drafted in the first round, 22nd overall by the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, they've had many times, or there have been many times, they've drafted a quarterback and it hasn't just really worked out. Brandon Weeden was one of those quarterbacks. After a couple of years, he eventually just became a backup. Didn't really do much in his NFL career, but Would have been interesting if maybe he stuck it out with baseball. Maybe he could have been a late bloomer in baseball, gotten his minor league career turned around. At number 3, probably the most high-profile name on this list, Tom Brady. Tom Brady definitely could have been a catcher in the major leagues at one point, and that's not a stretch at all. Tom Brady was a very good catcher in high school. He was drafted in the 18th round of the 1995 MLB draft by the Montreal Expos. A left-handed hitting catcher, had power. He definitely could have made it. Taking a look here at this article, the scout here is saying when he saw him in high school, he thinks he would have made it to the big leagues. He was drafted in the 18th round because everyone knew how difficult it would be to sign him. He was very talented. I mean, on talent alone, he would have been projected a late second round pick, and I believe he would have made it. As a catcher, he would have gotten there. In the scouting reports, he recalls Brady as already being around 6'3". He had a good athletic body, and obviously he could throw. He had power to the pull side and a good instinct for the game. His personal makeup was what made him stand out. Tom Brady has always he's always had one of the better makeups in the game. Just Tom Brady, a great person overall, very good teammate. Lots of people loved playing with Tom Brady. They saw him as just a leader, a great teammate. I definitely think Tom Brady could have been a catcher. Would have been awesome if maybe, who knows what would have happened if he stuck with baseball. I mean, could you imagine not pursuing football, sticking with baseball, and then all those Super Bowls wouldn't have happened? Tom Brady, I think, is the greatest player to ever play the game of football. Easily the best quarterback of all time. I think that debate is done. But Tom Brady, could you imagine if he played baseball and nothing that he accomplished in the NFL would have happened at all? Pretty interesting to think. Coming in at number 2, I have Kyler Murray, the youngest player on this list, but he definitely could have pursued a career in baseball. He was the 9th overall pick back in the 2018 MLB draft. However, he decided to pursue a career in football. He was the 1st overall pick in the 2019 draft by the Cardinals, and he had a very good season last year with the Cardinals. 14 games played, a 9-5 record overall, over 3,700 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. The Cardinals, hey, they were pretty good last year, and Kyler Murray is first good year as a quarterback in the NFL. But Kyler Murray definitely could have pursued baseball. He was very, very good. Taking a look at the scouting report here, despite not playing baseball regularly since he was a high school junior, Murray showed remarkable ability on the diamond as a redshirt sophomore in 2018. More surprising was that it came on the heels of a lackluster 2017, both in the Big 12 Conference and Cape Cod League. He hit for power, recorded high-end exit velocities, and showed surprising fluidity in center field. He's a premium athlete who could be a standout defensive center fielder with at least an average arm. Hey, Kyler Murray, if he ends up wanting to pursue baseball down the road, I think that there's definitely a chance he could make it. Taking a look here at his stats in 2018 at Oklahoma, he had really good numbers that year. Again, like the scouting report said, he wasn't really good in his first couple of years playing in college, or his first year playing in college. But 2018, he had 296, a 398 on base, a 556 slugging, 10 homers, 47 RBIs, 10 stolen bases. Kyler Murray has potential to be an all-around player in baseball. He has 2 more years left on that contract, and supposedly he has gotten rid of all of any mention of the Cardinals on his Instagram or whatever it is. But hey, could that be maybe saying that maybe he wants to go back to baseball down the road? He can't play baseball until this contract is over. His contract prohibits him from that. But 2 more years? Could he go back to baseball? He definitely could. And coming in at number 1 on my list, I have John Elway. John Elway could have been an absolute stud if he pursued a career in baseball. Ended up having a Hall of Fame career in football, but he definitely could have been a good baseball player. John Elway. Taking a look at this picture here. Are you kidding me? Look at John Elway as a baseball player. But John Elway in Stanford, before he got drafted, he had really good numbers. He had 361, had 9 homers, 50 RBIs in 49 games. He played right field. The Yankees drafted him in 1981. The reason they drafted him, a lot of teams were passing on him because they thought this is a guy, he's probably going to go play football. But the Yankees, they thought, hey, if there's any team that could lure John Elway away from the game of football, It's the Yankees. George Steinbrenner throwing money at him. So there was definitely a possibility that John Elway could have stuck with baseball. But in his first professional season in the Yankees system, he was really good. He hit .318 in low A ball. He had a .432 on base, a .464 slugging, 4 homers, 25 RBIs. He stole 13 bases. But what ended up happening, he ended up getting drafted. He went into the NFL draft. He got drafted first overall by the Baltimore Colts. He didn't want to play for the Colts, so he ended up using the Yankees as leverage, telling the Colts, hey, I'm going to go back to playing baseball. Either, you trade me or I'm going to go back to the Yankees. They ended up trading him. They got something in return for him. He went to the Broncos, ended up having a Hall of Fame career, one of the best of all time. If you take a look at the all-time career leaders in passing yards, he ranks 11th all time, 51,475. He made the right choice. There was definitely some controversy around John Elway at the time, but if he stuck with baseball, he could have been pretty good. So that's my list. Tell me what you think down below. Did I leave anyone off? Let me know down below in the comments. But that's all I have for right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.